Ever wondered how many times you should forgive someone who wrongs you? This question was also on Peter's mind when he approached Jesus. He asked, "How often should I forgive a person who sins against me?" And Jesus, in his infinite wisdom, responded that forgiveness should not be counted or limited, but rather it should be as limitless as the sky above us. "Not 7 times, Peter, but 77 times," Jesus said. And so Jesus began a parable to illustrate this point. The kingdom of heaven is likened to a king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. Picture a grand king in his court, calling forth one servant who was deep in debt, owing the king 10,000 bags of gold. The debt was overwhelming, insurmountable. The servant, with no means to repay this massive debt, was ordered to be sold along with his family. But the servant, desperate and trembling, fell to his knees and pleaded, "Be patient with me, and I will pay back everything." The king, moved by the servant's plea, showed extraordinary mercy. He cancelled the debt completely, setting the servant free. Now imagine this servant, freshly unburdened, coming across a fellow servant who owed him a mere 100 silver coins. Instead of extending the mercy he himself had just received, he seized his fellow servant, choking him and demanding immediate repayment. The fellow servant echoed the plea he himself had made to the king, "Be patient with me and I will pay it back." But the unforgiving servant was deaf to the plea and instead had his fellow servant thrown into prison. News of this merciless act found its way back to the king. When the king heard of this, he was furious. The king said, "You wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt because you begged me to. Shouldn't you have had mercy on your fellow servant just as I had on you?" This parable, as it unfolds, presents a stark contrast. The king, representing God, extends limitless mercy, forgiving an enormous debt. The servant, on the other hand, fails to show mercy to his fellow servant over a trifling amount. The lesson is clear and profound. As recipients of God's boundless forgiveness, we're called to extend the same to others. The parable serves as a mirror, reflecting our human tendency to clutch at grudges, to demand justice where mercy is needed. It challenges us, pushing us to emulate the King's mercy, to forgive as we have been forgiven. In essence, the parable underscores the divine principle of forgiveness, reminding us that we must be willing to forgive without limit, just as God forgives us without limit. "This is how my heavenly Father will treat each of you unless you forgive your brother or sister from your heart."